The title and subject of today's video is how to find and hire a property manager. So let's get started. Number one, I'm going to share with you the 3 advantages of having an effective property manager on your investment team. Very important. Number 2, the single most important thing to consider when looking for or hiring a property manager. This is a character attribute. One thing you must have or you have nothing. Number 3, 3 ways to find property managers. Very simple. Number 4, 5 key questions to ask every time to every property manager you are considering hiring. And number 5, the top 3 red flags to look for when hiring a property manager. Number 6, 5 tips on managing your manager. These are a couple things that books won't teach you. This comes from experience. All right. And lastly, number 7, next steps. Next steps are going to wrap up 1 through 6 and teach you how to effectively hire the best property manager. Let's get started. Before I get started on this training video on property management, I thought I would share with you what is the overall goal of a property manager. So what is the purpose of having a property manager? I really think that we should have this defined before we go any further. So before we start, I'm going to share that with you. All right, so what are the overall goals for a property manager on your property? Number 1 is to maximize the potential rental income and reduce operating expenses. Okay, so I'm going to stress the income and operating expenses here. Number 2 is to strengthen tenant retention and relations. All right, tenant retention is the ability to hold on to your tenants, to keep them from moving out, to keep them paying rent month to month to month to month to month for years. All right, you do that and you can maximize your rental income and you will reduce operating expenses. All right, and to strengthen your relations. The stronger relations you have with your tenants, the more likely they are to stay and not move out and cause you expenses. All right, and number 3 is to enhance the visual appeal of the property and increase the property value. All right, so when you enhance the visual appeal of the property, you are keeping the curb appeal of the property. You're making the property look good, so when people drive by, they want to come in and want to live there. All right, so when you enhance the visual appeal of the property, guess what's going to happen? You're going to maximize the rental income. You're going to reduce expenses. You're going to strengthen tenant retention and relations. All right, and that equals you're going to increase the property value. All right, so you can see that 1, 2, 3, they're all related. All right, so now I hope you have a good understanding of what the purpose of hiring a property manager. If you can get this down, 1, 2, 3, if you can get this down, and when operating your property, when managing your property manager, you will win. This sets you up to win. 3 advantages of having the right property manager on your investment team. These 3 advantages are invaluable. Number 1 is they'll be able to look at deals for you and with you. So whenever I find a deal that I like or potentially will make an offer on, I will send my property manager over to that property to drive through the property, drive around the property, and to report back to me with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. All right, and if there's further interest, I may actually have them secret shop the property by walking inside and acting like a tenant. All right, you get invaluable information by doing this. All right, by having them on your team. And guess what? It's for free. All right, they don't charge you for that because they either already work for you or they're trying to get you as a client. So that's an advantage, the advantage of having that type of person on your team. All right. Number 2 is you can get a valuable third-party opinion on the deal you're working on. Imagine this property manager who has decades of experience, and you're a beginner. He has decades of experience in the business. All right. He understands the market. He understands demographics. He understands income. He understands operating expenses. He understands the jobs, what's happening in that area. Imagine having him give you his opinion on the deal. All right, so here it is. On one side, you may have the real estate agent who sent you the deal, and he's a salesperson, okay? So he's a good guy, honest guy, but he's a salesperson. On the other side, you have a property manager who is an operations person, who understands cash flow, who understands tenant retention, who understands how to keep the property profitable. So on this side you have this agent, on this side you have an operations guy. You need the opinion of both, not just this side. If you only have the opinion of this side, you're going to get in trouble. All right? So have a third-party opinion. Have the opinion of the property manager as well. So that's the second advantage of having the right property manager on your investment team. Number 3 is they'll be able to manage their property for you. You may have a full-time job. You may not have the heart and desire to manage the property yourself. You may not want to. All right? So the right property manager will be able to do everything I said before a few minutes ago when I talked about the purpose and goal of a property manager. They'll do that for you if you're unable to do that for yourself. All right? So those are the 3 advantages of having the right property manager on your investment team. The single most important thing to look for when hiring a property manager. Over the years, I've been blessed to be part of some really super successful deals and some deals that were not as successful. And what I learned was the deals that were not as successful, they were missing something. And the deals that were super successful, over the top successful, they have that something. And I'm going to share with you what that missing link is, what the single most important thing to have when hiring a property manager. Here it is. I'm going to write it down for you. I'm going to cover it up and then reveal it to you. Okay? I'm writing it down right now. There it is. It's called integrity. Right? It's really important. That's the single most important thing to have when hiring a property manager. You see, when you're speaking with or hiring or interviewing property managers, they all have the same credentials. They all have a great track record. They may manage hundreds or thousands of units, but not all of them will have this. Not all of them will have integrity. This is what you need to win. All right? So now, here's a lesson for you. When you are meeting with the property managers, when you're meeting them at the property, when you're doing your walkthroughs, even when you're on the phone with them or even negotiating with them, if you sense that something is amiss with their integrity, if you sense that they're not looking you in the eye, if you sense that they're not returning your phone calls, all right, I want you to honor your perception, all right, because your gut is probably right, all right, so trust your gut in that. Where they're not returning your phone calls, when you see them treat their employees badly, when you see something amiss with their integrity, all right, and so they're telling you something, all right, I want you to believe what they're telling you, all right, so they're telling you who they are. Believe it, all right, so what I want you to do then is, once your gut says something's wrong there, I want you to do the next best thing, and that's move on. Find the next property manager. Believe your gut. Believe your gut. Again, a lot of them may have all the same accreditations, same number of units, but not all of them have this integrity. This is the missing link. All right, this is the single most important thing to look for in a property manager to win in your investment strategies. Okay, next is finding a property manager. Over the course of my career, I have hired and fired my fair share of property managers. So in this short section, I'm going to share with you 3 ways to find an effective property manager. Number 1 is by referral. Finding someone, a local investor who is already happy with their current property manager and the performance and hiring that property manager is probably the best way to find a property manager. All right. Number 2 is commercial brokers. Reach out to commercial brokers and ask them for a referral. How you find them is you can go onto loopnet.com and search in your city and then call commercial brokers. Now the reason why I like to use commercial brokers is they are concerned about their reputation, their name. So in fact, a lot of them will have maybe no referrals for you for property managers because the best ones are far and few between. And they don't want to just give you anyone and ruin the chance of working with you. All right, so that's the reason I like working with these guys, because hopefully the ones that they give you will turn out to be good. All right, number 3 is to simply go online. I'm going to give you 4 different websites to go on to. All right, number 1 is a website I like. It's called allpropertymanagement.com, and You go on there, you can select your property type, area, number of units, things like that, and then it'll give you a drop-down list of management companies in that area for you to start calling on. And number 2 is to go to IREM.org, IREM.org. IREM is the place where property managers actually get their training and where they get their certification. So it's a very well-respected platform to do so. And within that website, they have local chapters where you have accredited property managers who, where their contact information is listed for you to contact them and see if they are available for management. All right? And next is, if you're in a large city, you can go to a website called Yelp.com, YELP.com. Basically, you enter your city and comma property management and see what pops up. A lot of them may be residential, but some of them will be commercial. So again, this is just a way to find them, and the good thing about Yelp is Yelp will actually rate the property management company for you, so you can see what their client feedback is. All right, so I like that one. And the last one not listed here is, to go on to Google and just Google property managers, comma, and your city and see what pops up there. All right, so that's how you find a property manager. Okay, next are the initial interview questions. Let's say you found a property manager and you have his contact information and you're about to have a phone call with them. Here are the questions that I want you to ask. All right? All right, so before I start though, I'm going to go with you a few things. You need to keep the questions conversational. All right? You keep the questions conversational so you can hear them out, so you can keep them on the phone, so you can see if they are knowledgeable in the market, they are a good match for you. Now, many of you know that when you're on the phone with someone and things are not clicking, you know that you're not clicking. All right? That's a sign that he may not be a good match for you. All right? So that's why we have the questions conversational yet informative. All right? And number 3, do you remember what the single most important thing is when hiring a property manager? Do you remember what that was? Well, if you don't remember, I'm going to remind you. It's called integrity. That's number 1. So the integrity check begins when you ask him these questions. All right. So remember, when he or she are answering your questions, and you get something in your gut that something's not right, again, I want you to honor that perception because your gut's probably right. All right? Okay, so here are the questions. Number 1 is, again, and also feel free to take notes too. There's just too much to write up here. All right? Number 1 is, what is the general vacancy rate in your area? All right? So again, a simple question to get him to start speaking about the marketplace and his knowledge. Number 2, how many units or square footage do you currently have under management? Number 3, how long have you been in the business? All right, I'm going to tell you right now, if they've been in the business less than 2 years, do not hire them. That's not enough experience. Number 4, what are your management fees and what other ways are you compensated? Very important to understand that. Number 5, do you have your own maintenance staff, or do you use independent contractors for maintenance work? All right. Again, it's a measure of their sophistication and how well they are organized. All right. Number 6 here is, how do you market your vacancies or upcoming vacancies? Again, just to this is a very conversational question. Get them talking about the knowledge and how they support their owners in getting their spaces filled. All right. Next is, will you help me set up an annual operating budget for the property? Operating budgets are very important. It allows you to hold each other accountable to the performance of the property. If they cannot help you set up an operating budget, even a simple one, I would reconsider hiring them, really. All right, this is a commercial property. This is serious business, and we need a budget on what we're doing income and expense-wise. All right, and next is, what monthly reports do you typically send to your owners? All right, this is the primary way of holding them accountable to the performance of the property, or the reports they send to you. on a monthly basis. All right, so find out, ask for a sample or ask them what do they give their owners and make sure it's what you want. Okay, and lastly, are you licensed or do you have any professional accreditations or certifications as a property manager? Some states don't require licenses, some do, most do, but in every state they're able to become accredited property managers. For example, probably the most common one, or maybe the most prestigious one, is called CPM, Certified Property Manager, and that's through the IRM organization. All right, what I mentioned in the previous video there. All right, so they can get also an ARM, which is, I believe, that is from the National Association of Apartment Owners. So you can, so there's two different types they can get, and there's even more, but those are probably the CPM and ARM are probably two of the most popular ones. All right, so yeah, so those are the conversational questions to ask. All right, so I believe once you have asked them those questions and you've been on the phone with them for a few minutes, you have a good idea of if it's a good match or not to continue on to the next level. Now, there's one last question, a special question I say for last that I want you to ask them last. All right, here's the last question I want you to ask them. It's very important. All right, do you, Mr. or Mrs. Manager, own any real estate investments yourself? All right, and if they say yes, and if so, do you manage your own properties? All right, very important question, because if they indeed do own investment property in the same area in which your property is located, there could be a conflict of interest, right? If there's some vacancies going on in the neighborhood, which ones do you think they're going to fill first, yours or their own? Probably their own. So I'm not saying all property managers are that way, but this is good to know. So you know if something in the future, if something goes wrong, you may know what's going on. All right, so it's always good to know, always better to do more research than not. All right, next are the top 3 red flags when hiring a property manager. Let's face it, property management is a tough business, and it is super tough, and it's actually super thankless. And but also the process of a hiring manager is also rather difficult. And during this process, if you were to see these 3 red flags, do not hire that property manager. It's that simple. All right, so number 1, the first red flag is if they are unwilling to provide references, do not hire them. All right, so again, it is a tough job. There's no rocket science to hiring the right manager. You're going to have to hire them for a few months and see how it turns out in order to see if they're a right fit. And a lot of them have the same accreditations, the same number of years of experience, but there are just a few things that set them apart and make them work well for your property. All right, so where we begin is we need to ask for references, for a track record, for past success or history of their performance in other properties. So they're not willing to supply references to you, or they are hesitant to or try to distract you. That's a red flag. Do not hire them. Number 2, excessive cost structure. All right, I'll make this simple for you. If you are looking for someone to manage your 5-unit apartment building, but the manager manages 3,000 units, their cost structure is probably too much for you. They have all this overhead, all these people, and for them to dedicate enough time to manage your 5-unit, it's probably not going to be worth it for you. They're going to be too expensive. All right. So when the cost structure is excessive, is too high, that's a red flag. Plainly put, if you're looking for someone to manage your 5 to 20 unit apartment building, look for someone that manages 5 to 20 unit apartment buildings. All right. Not someone that manages 100 to 300 units. Again, they're probably too expensive for you. All right, let's move on. Number 3, lacking proper licenses. All right, and the reason why I have this here is some property management companies operate without a license, even though sometimes it's required. Again, not all states require them, but in the states that do not hire a property manager who is not licensed and supposed to be licensed. And the reason why is if something goes wrong, you need to be able to call a board or some agency that's authorized to slap them on the wrist or correct them. So if they are operating without a license, where a license is required, you have probably very minimal ways of holding them accountable if something goes wrong. All right, okay, so those are the top 3 red flags. 3 tips on how to manage your property manager. If you want to last a long time in this business and be successful in commercial real estate, you have to know the basics, all right? And the basics of managing your manager are these 3 things here, all right? So number 1 is the manager must be in agreement with your business plan and exit strategy for buying the property. Let me give an example. If you bought the property for cash flow purposes, to retire yourself, to build retirement income, or to retire your wife, but the property management company is operating it as if it's a tax shelter, meaning they're maximizing expenses, producing no cash flow, you can see the disconnect there, all right? So there's no agreement there. So that's number 1, is to make sure that you and your property manager are in agreement as to how the property will be operated. All right, so for example, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you should have an operating budget, so at the end of the day, for each month, you can see where you like to be. All right. Secondly, is you need a system of accountability. All right, between the two, between you and the manager, between the manager and you. All right. So between you and the manager, I want you as the basics, I want you to have these 3 things. Number 1 is you need to have regular meetings. I'm talking once a week and then once a month. All right. Imagine this, if you're a beginner and you buy a commercial property, this is probably your largest investment that you ever made. And so why wouldn't you want to watch over it like a hawk? All right. So you need to have a regular meeting. Some people think that commercial real estate is passive. It is not as passive as you think. All right. So the more you can do this, the more cash flow you will have. All right. Bottom line. All right. So number 1 is to have regular meetings. Number 2 is you're going to have to visit the property occasionally. Sometimes do a surprise visit. All right. Again, it's all about accountability. All right. Number 3 is reporting. You're going to have regular reporting, either once a week or once a month, actual emails from the property managers on financials concerning the performance of the property. That needs to be on a regular basis, and you need to be anal about getting those reports. If you're not, you are headed in the wrong direction. All right. Imagine, in accountability, it's just like holding your children accountable. If you're not on them, when the cat's out, all the mice play. That's what happens with the property too. They're human, just like you and I. All right. Number 3 is don't be afraid to pull the plug if performance is poor and it lingers. All right. You're going to have to make an executive decision when enough is enough. All right. So for example, if the property does not improve in 6 months, they are telling you who they are. Believe them. All right. You're going to have to pull the plug there. All right. Okay. So these are just 3 of the top 3. There's more to be had a little later on in further training, but these are the top 3. All right. Lastly, next steps, how to wrap up everything we just heard in the last few minutes or so. All right. So number 1, what I want you to do is I want you to build and nurture the relationship with the property manager after you find a good one. Even before you hire them, I want you to build and nurture a relationship. Remember, these guys are on your team before, during, and after you own the property. So it's really important that you build and nurture that relationship. They are an integral part of your team. All right, you can do that by sending them a thank you note after they spend some time with you. If they have gone through looked through a deal for you, drove by a property for you, even did an on-site visit with you, you can really solidify the relationship and set yourself apart as a very classy and thoughtful person if you send them a thank you note and all you have to say is, Dear Bill, just want to say thank you for your time today. You are awesome. All my best, Peter. That's all you have to say. Put your business card inside of it and send it off in the mail. Okay, not an email, not a text, but an actual thank you note. All right, That will set you apart from all the other people out there taking up his time. Guarantee you. All right. Next, number 3 is to reward them with the management contract if they pass all the tests. All right. That's the ultimate reward for them, is for you to trust them with the property. All right. Then the real work begins. The last thing I want to say, I have it written down here, is you can build a fortune with one good property manager or property management company. All you need is one, and you can one good one is all you need to build a fortune. Okay, all right, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more videos like this, please go onto our website, commercialpropertyadvisors.com, or simply subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching today's video called How to Find and Hire a Property Manager. I'll see you at the next video.